Hey everyone, welcome back to A Creative Affair. And this is Bree, and I'm here with Len, and we have a special guest today. Her name is Takeyce Walter, right? I said it right?
That's it.
And I know her. I invited her to come join us today. She is, we've never actually met in person, but we have a mutual friend in photography, and his name is Jim Rodewald. Anyway, shout out to him for, I think I saw something that he shared on Instagram, and I was like, wait, I have to know this person. So anyway, so that's kind of it. It was all me. I love her work. She's a painter and an educator, but I'm not going to say anything more because Takeyce, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So tell us what you do, who you are, and then we'll get into why we asked you here.
Sure. Hi, everyone. And shout out to Jim. Hey, Jim. So thank you, Bree and Len, for having me on. My name is Takeyce Walter, and I am a painter, an art educator, and a media producer. And I'm also the creator of Creative February, which is a daily painting challenge or daily art challenge, let's say, not painting. It's open to all arts that happens annually in February.
Spoiler, that's why we asked her here. I mean, I think if it were me listening to this podcast, I'd be like, Creative February, wait, tell us more. Okay, so what kind of, before we go on, what kind of media, mediums do you work with in your own painting?
Sure. So I paint primarily with oils, pastels, and most recently added gouache to my repertoire. So this past Creative February, I kind of challenged myself to experiment. I've had other artists whom I admire that I've seen use gouache, and I really loved what they were doing with it. I kind of played around with it sporadically over the years and used it for if I were doing a note card or something, just a quick sketch, but never really worked in earnest with it. So I wanted to set a goal for myself to just kind of explore it and get to know it more. So I'm pleased to have added it to the list of media that I work with. Primarily, I paint landscapes. I live in upstate New York, and I am just surrounded by beautiful mountains and lakes. So that's where I gather most of my inspiration.
Yeah, you do a lot of work that has water in it.
Yes.
I feel like you like reflections. When I look at your work, I'm like, I think she likes beautiful reflections. There's something about them, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, we're on the water a lot, me and my family, and being in nature, especially by a lake, is so calming and restorative to me. So I love the challenge of just, I can just stare at a lake and the reflection, whether it's a still day or there's, movement on the water, it's never the same. And it's just an incredible challenge to just try to capture that.
Can I ask, how did you actually start Creative February?
Sure. So in 2014, so next year will be our 9th year. Before Creative February was Creative February, around 2014, I had young kids. I also work a full-time job, and I paint as often as I can. Usually, prior to 2014, I would try to paint at least daily or draw or do something creative daily. But with the demands of, family life and work and various other important commitments, I really wasn't getting time to be creative. And that year, my husband asked me what I wanted for my birthday for, which is in February. And I said, and it was kind of a joke, but I was like, I just want time to myself to make art. That's it. And he's like, okay.
That's my dream too.
Yeah.
We put that out to all partners out there
Yes.
of
Yeah, put it
creatives.
up. Yep.
We want that for our birthday.
That's
We
what we
also want it
want.
for Christmas and
Yeah.
any
On all
other
of the
reasons.
things.
Yeah.
And February,
Yeah.
by the way, February is such a time like here in the US, not for you down there, Len, in Australia, but here in the US, February is such kind of a dark, cold month that to
Yeah.
me, it just makes sense, you know? Okay,
Yeah.
so go on, that you said, I
Yeah.
want to, that's what I want for my birthday. I love
That,
that so much.
that's what I want. And being the supportive guy that he is, he was like, okay, that's easy for me. And I was like, oh, okay, so I need to figure out what exactly that means. And my good friend Kate Edwards, she's a painter who happens to also share my birthday. Good friend of mine. I called her. Actually, no, I went to her shop. She owns a frame shop in Saratoga Springs, which is a city near me. And I went to see her, and I said, "Hey, Kate, guess what we're doing for our birthday this year?" Because as they say, misery loves company. um, but I thought, I would be more likely to be accountable if I had someone sharing the journey with me. And Kate agreed, and she said, "All right," she's always up for an adventure. And that year, we each just kind of fed off of each other, and I did drawings, I did some pastels, I did some oil paints. It was kind of like a mishmash of things. And she did also similar. She did drawings and paintings. And that year we had an exhibit of all the work that we created. I think we each had about 28. And we had a show at a gallery in Saratoga. And the name of the show was Every Day. And that was the start of Creative February. And subsequent years were kind of, there were some years that I think I did like a January challenge. And then by February, I was spent. So I think I completed maybe 3 paintings that year. And Kate has participated, to some degree every year as well. And then as I think it was maybe 2018 or 2017, we kind of started opening it up to other artists. And I came up with the name Creative February because I was like, we have to call it something. So Creative February is born. I made like a logo, which has gone through some iteration, a couple of iterations. And we developed I developed a hashtag for it for social media. We started a Facebook group. So actually a lot of my students joined us, and yeah, it's been pretty incredible. The biggest, most impactful thing for me is just the sense of community that I've been able to achieve with this challenge. It's not just during the month. Like, we had this year, we ended up having an exhibit. We put out a call for art for artists who participated this year. And we had submissions, and everybody was in a show called Creative Collective, which ran alongside my solo show at the Art Center of the Capital Region that just wrapped at the end of last month.
So one of the incredibly exciting things in that journey is this notion of collaboration, isn't it? And not that you're making a collaborative artwork, but people are joining in for that peer support and helping each other to get through it, or to challenge each other, or become accountable.
Absolutely. Yeah, there were nights, because typically I work at night. There were nights where I was like, oh, I'm so tired. But then I would see, Kate post something, or Jim would post something, and I was like, oh, okay, I need to get
It's my
to
turn.
work. Yeah. And even though I would always get like so energized, and to be able to go out and just know that we're kind of, the creative energy is feeding off of each other. It's just really, really exciting.
You mentioned that in one January you did a big project and you were spent, and it was really hard to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's become such a set thing that January must be really exciting in the lead up to it, knowing that you're about to start it in February. Is that something that's quite important to you? And how does that sort of work?
Yeah, so January is really exciting because that's usually the time that I kind of come up with like a plan. I've found as each year comes and goes, I find that having an idea of a theme or a media or um, a medium or even just like a size to work with. So that planning happens usually in January. One year in 2020, actually, it started in 2019. I did a fundraiser. It was an event where Creative February turned into an event, and we had an additional hashtag called Creative Adirondacks, where I wanted to bring to light um, the preserves at the Nature Conservancy, which I'm a board member of. I wanted to highlight special places to me that they've preserved over the years. And so that year, we had a plan that every day I was going to paint either from a reference photo or go to the actual location and paint the preserves. And that was really thrilling because the planning for that year literally happened a year in advance. So I took the time to go to the various preserves in various seasons because we decided to do, each week would be, a different season. And each day would feature a different place. And that was really exciting.
That's awesome. And I want to say that it's December when we're recording this because of holidays and all of that kind of excitement. But we're going to be part of the lead up to Creative February in January, and part of all of that excitement because
Yeah.
this podcast episode is going to be released. So if you're listening, it's January. So yay. So what I want to know is, what does Creative February look like? Like when you tell people what Creative February is, what do you like advise them to do? And typically we're not, interviewing, but we have so many questions about Creative
Sure.
February that we just want to talk to you and ask you all the questions. So when you tell people and talk to people about what it is or how they can do it, what do you say to
Mhm.
them?
So the first thing I say is that the purpose of Creative February is to, in a fun way, that should be the first thing. Is it should be fun.
Amen.
It should not be
Yes.
stressful. You should not be like, oh, like I need to do something and finish something every single day. That's not the spirit that we're doing this in. The purpose is to explore creativity. And if you, um, whatever your medium of creativity is, to just spend some time each day to explore that. If you can finish a piece in a day, that is a bonus, but it's more about the journey and not the finished item. Um, so there's also the sense of collaboration and community. So I encourage folks to share what they're working on, even if it's not a finished piece. If they're doing sketches or if they're planning on working on one large piece or several pieces throughout the month, just to kind of share what they're working on. And I encourage them also to interact with the other artists and the other creatives that are participating.
Mm.
Yeah, because it is very much, from the start, I tapped into my friend Kate because I knew, as artists, we kind of like we're in our own world and we're kind of isolated in our creativity. And I tapped my friend because I knew that would be a way for me to just have a sense of connection with somebody else with the same idea, with the same project. So have fun. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. You don't need to finish one thing. You don't need to be a painter to do Creative February. You can be a musician. I've had jewelers participate. I've had people who do collage, knitting, anything, anything that fuels you and fuels your and honors your urge to be creative.
I want to chime in here and say I participated in last year's Creative February. I didn't get to every day, but that doesn't even matter because
Right.
I'm a photographer, and you remember as I posted some of my on my stories,
I
some of my
do.
videos. Yeah, so you can actually go back. I think it's on my Creative Minds Coach Instagram account. I know there's at least one video on there of me doing this. What I did was I decided to explore my connection to creativity through painting and meditation, which there's a meditative practice called Enso circles, which I am still finding out more about. I think it's a deeper practice than just doing it for Creative February. And so sometimes I do get it out and connect with it. But and I'll put an article in the episode description. I'll put an article, a little blurb about it if people want to read about it. But anyway, it's about making one big circle without stopping. And there's so much to it, but it was so fun to me to just not have to do anything perfect because it's not about perfection. And it was easy for me to do. I'm like, who can't do a circle? and it was something different than photography. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to connect with a different part of myself creatively and see how that influenced my photography. And to be honest, I think I'm still figuring that out. I think part of what I learned is that entering creative practice doesn't have to be this big thing. It can just be this small moment to enjoy and to relax and release and to just kind of be with myself for a few minutes. And for me, that's a lot of what it was. So I have thoughts about next year.
Oh, great.
But it was really fun, and I really appreciated the opportunity to kind of practice that and to kind of participate in the challenge. So that was just really fun for me. So
it's really such an amazing thing, isn't it? That it's not so much about finishing things or setting this huge goal, but the goal is actually to create space to make or to be creative. And for a period of time, like a set period of time, 1 month, making this lovely, beautiful space where you're actually and doing exactly what Bree's just describing there, connecting with yourself. And whether it's making one large artwork or 28 small ones or half finishing 30 or a sketchbook or whatever it is, or recording a new thing. It's about making space in your life for it, isn't it? And actually, by having it in a discrete form that you can go, oh, that's achievable. A month's achievable to put aside space every day.
Yeah, I think so. And even if you did, folks did once a week, I have friends who have small kids, and they're like, well, I don't know if I could do every single day, but maybe I could just say Sundays. Every Sunday, I'm going to spend a couple of hours to write or pick up a medium that I've been wanting to try. So yeah, you're right, Len.
It's very much like what Julia Cameron says about making an artist state for yourself, isn't it? And what you've done is framed it up in this month really beautifully, and then helped and encouraged people to support each other in this collective time frame and pursuit. I really love it. It's beautiful. It's very, very beautiful.
And like so many things, it comes from something that we are needing. Like it seems like it came from something you were needing, and then now you can share it with everyone else. What have you seen? I'm so curious what you have, what kind of results have others shared with you about what this has done for them? I didn't prep you for this question.
Yeah, no. That is a great question. And what comes to mind is a good friend of mine, Kim. She is one part of the Quiet Woods, which is a jewelry company that's in the town where I live. And the year, I know she did a couple of years, but the first year that she did it, and I saw her in the supermarket, and she, and I'm sure she'd be fine with me sharing this, but she said that the practice was basically she said she wanted to do it for years, but was worried about how to do so with jewelry. And because obviously it's probably not very easy to produce a piece a day. But she said she used that time to just kind of experiment with different materials. She's, sketched things out, different ideas. And she started oxidizing, and I'm probably getting this wrong, Kim. Sorry if I am, but
I know a little bit about jewelry, and that sounds right.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, she did some work with like oxidation, and she had like a whole new line that came from that practice. And I was just so thrilled. I was like grinning from ear to ear as she was telling me this, because as I mentioned before, I teach art as well. And I always stress to my students that once you let go of expectations and really go into that zone of just experimentation, you're just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what works. I feel like that's the space where I've at least personally noticed the most growth. So it was just validating to hear her have that experience, because I've had that as well. And I've encouraged my students to allow themselves to have that as well. So that was really amazing. And in the Facebook group, folks are always just so encouraging and happy to share what they're learning about themselves and about their creative practice throughout the month. Yeah, it really energizes me to be allowed to be a part of so many other artists' creative journeys.
And if you guys can't see her if you're listening to this podcast, but Takeyce is grinning from ear to ear, like literally while she's talking about it. Like,
so beautiful.
You can hear the smile in her voice. It's really amazing. I also want to chime in here and say, like, I think we can just experiment and try things, but I also think there's value in taking a moment, especially maybe in the preparation up to February, maybe the January, where it's kind of exciting and you're planning and all of these things, is to take a moment. And I talk to clients about listening to our creative spirit. And what is that? What does our heart want to create? And I think that's such a great moment to say, what does our heart want to create? Or what have I been putting off trying because it feels a little bit risky? Right. And I would say that this is the time to kind of just allow it and let it go, and, allow that creative spirit to guide you and tell you what you want to be doing next. Just like, what's her name? Kim with, I wrote it down, Quiet Woods. Yeah. It sounds like she just allowed herself to be guided in that way. And what a beautiful thing that came out of it. So I also think that that's something really valuable, that if we take a moment to be introspective and listen, then it could actually guide us to something really amazing. Not that we expect that it will, because it really is just like you said. I really think it's just a fun thing. I really think that it's just an energizing, creative, fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So much of that, it's about, excuse me, letting go of the outcome, isn't it? of the actual artwork as being a brilliant masterpiece or whatever you
Yeah.
would like it to be, but being in the moment with it. I think the Enzo circles also teach that. It's about being in the moment of making
Yeah.
rather than in the focusing on the product itself. Having a really high turnover of artwork is actually quite valuable in this. I know in drawing class, my favorite time to draw is the 1 minute sketches or the
Yeah.
30-second ones. And when we get to the half hour and 1 hour poses, I've had enough and I don't really
Right.
enjoy that process. But when I'm going fast and I'm working quickly and, aiming for an artwork a day or something, an unfinished experiment a day or trying something or a bit of time a day, uh, it's really this speed forces me, and I think it would force other people to relax and to let go of the outcome and actually
Yeah.
focus on the doing. And I think you've hit upon something that's incredibly important for artists.
Yeah. Yeah.
My quick sketches would look like little stick figures. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
I bet I could do something interesting. And I kind of shy away from the sketching, but anyway, I may have a little bit of a block about it. I don't know. I'm thinking I do.
Well, maybe that should be your Creative February plan.
Actually, I have an idea. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, because I had hinted in our chat ahead of time, and like I'm doing this little hand thing because I'm excited about it now. Okay, so hey everyone, just interrupting this awesome episode to let you know that we still have a few spots left for our Creative Affair workshop. This is a unique online workshop for photographers where Lynn and I guide you through a passion project from start to finish. You can work on a portfolio, an exhibition, an ebook, and so much more. If you have a passion but don't know what to do, we help you with that too. I teach all of the tools for my Creative Confidence workshop, and Lynn brings all of his years of mentoring experience. We invite you to join us starting February 7th or 8th, depending on your time zone. And details are in the show notes, or you can check us out at acreativeaffairpodcast.com. Now, let's chat with Takeyce some more. And I recorded an episode. It's actually already released, but it was all about Georgia O'Keeffe. And I have thought for the longest time, and this is where sketching comes in. I have thought for the longest time that I needed to be able to draw to be able to paint.
Okay.
And you're nodding your head like, not true. That's not true, right?
So no, it's not true.
Right. And so this is
common
like
misnomer.
Right. And I think, Len, you were like, no, you don't. No, you don't have to be able to draw to be able to paint. Right. So,
and you can draw without being able to paint too. And ask someone who has lots of experience at that end of the world as well.
Yep.
And I just think like destroying that idea or getting rid of that idea that's not really that's not really serving me, because I always have wanted to paint. I always love watercolor. I mean, years ago, before I moved to Texas, I took a watercolor class and I just allowed myself to kind of play with it. And it was really, really fun. But I remember being in there and seeing how other people could draw and then they could paint and being like, well, maybe that's what I have to be doing, is I have to be able to draw to be able to paint. Okay. So I think, and if I'm listening to my creative spirit tell me what is next, it is, and I know I'm a photographer, but it's okay because I do have this desire to paint. So I want to throw away, and this is like, I'm a little timidly throwing it away, right? Because I think this is feels a little bit of a stretch, and I think that's okay. So I'm going to throw away this idea that I need to be able to draw to paint. And I've told Len this, I'm just going to experiment with going to the art shop and grabbing 3 colors, watercolor
Mhm.
colors that I love. And I think I want to just play, and I can go grab more if I feel the need or desire or whatever too. And I'm just going to play with color, and I just want to see what the colors do. Like I don't have to actually create anything. I think
Yes.
this is all
Mhm.
experimental, just like the Enso circle, right? It could be meditative. And what does this do? And if I combine this, or if I use less water, what does that do? So I think that's what
That
it's going to
sounds
be. And I'll start with
so
one
yum.
color. What do you think?
Yeah, I
Should I do
think
it?
that's great. Absolutely. Absolutely. You should do it. Yeah. Throw that, that idea, that false idea that you need to draw to know how to paint. Just throw that in the garbage, get your colors, and just have fun. Just have fun with
And
it.
just go.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
Just
I think
go.
a lot of us have those ideas too that kind of hold us back from doing things
Yeah.
like this. Is
Mm-hmm.
all those thoughts that are like, oh, I have to be able to do whatever it is that's holding you back. Maybe that's
Right.
not even a thing. And it took me years to be able to go, oh, actually, that's not even true. So it took me quite a while to really figure that out.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to put it into practice in February. I'm going to get
Oh,
excited
good.
about it and get my
Oh,
materials.
I'm excited.
Me
I'm
too.
excited to see.
What size brush, what brush should I get? If I got one brush, if I just constrained to one brush, what should I get?
I think I would try two. I would try like a large flat, so like a size 8. I mean, because if you're working small, a size 8 would be, or a 10 would be pretty big. Um, and then so a flat and then a round. I think because with a round you can get a variety of different brush strokes. You can kind of
Mm.
squish it down and get like a broader, and then it could be really fine as well.
And one of those beautiful ones with a pointy end that's
Yeah, yeah.
you can get nylon ones, but the beautiful ones are sable.
Hmm.
And another thing to buy and consider the purchase is enough paper that you don't feel betrothed
Yes.
to its value.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I love paper, and you buy a huge watercolor sheet, and it's a lot of money, and then it scares you
Hmm.
because it's so valuable. And what happens
Right.
if I ruin it? And it's scary. And then if you buy enough that's to be able to do 3 or 4 every day, and you can churn through them, and it doesn't matter, let's go and see what the next mark's going to be. You release yourself from that fear
Yeah. Yeah.
of failure, because it's experimentation, and you don't want to be thinking about the price of things or worrying about it. I just say that from my own experience, because I was
Yeah.
like that with camera film as well. As
Yeah.
well as paper
Yeah.
and inks and everything like that. I get scared of the trying to make something that's supposed to be finished or beautiful
Right.
instead of
Or worthy
enjoying.
of the right.
Yeah,
Worthy
worthy of
of
the
Right.
the.
materials.
Yep. Hmm. Hmm.
What a
Yes.
terrible
Yeah.
concept.
It is right.
Right?
It's,
I love that. I love the paper thing, or even for me, not having to feel like I need a whole set of paints,
Oh
just
yeah.
having a
No.
couple and one or two brushes. It's very
Yeah.
minimal, and it constrains me to one thing, not in a bad way constraint, like in a good
Hmm.
way, to allow my
Hmm.
creativity to kind of flourish. But also the having enough paper, minimizes that feeling of risk. And so maybe that's something that, if you're going to participate in Creative February, that's something that that's a consideration, right? Is
Hmm.
size, or anything that might feel risky. Maybe figure out some other thing to kind of mitigate that.
can we ask for your advice on this? Uh, do we go big and go home, or do we go small, or do we go? What would your advice be on this one for Bree?
I would say to go small. I feel like going big would be, for me, kind of intimidating, especially if I'm trying something new. So I would probably just kind of in advance cut down some, like either 4x4 or 4x6 sheets, whatever format you want to work in. And you really do only need the primaries, the three primaries in white. Um, and yeah, and a couple of brushes, some water, and go from there.
I literally, I
Yeah.
literally am just going to go and pick out colors I love. That's what I'm going
Okay.
to do.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm
I'll
going to go
challenge
like,
you on that too.
Yeah.
right? Like in Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride, where he's got his sword and he's like
Yep.
holding it up and it's guided towards the tree. And that's what I'm
Okay.
going to do
Yep.
with my hands. I'm just going to reach out and go, which colors?
Yeah. Oh, so Bree, would you change that every day? It was like whatever color on that day that's, calling for you, or
Yes. Because
yes. All
how
right.
I literally am not creating anything. I'm just
Yeah.
playing. And so I think allowing myself to play with colors I love and just see what the medium does and see how
Yeah.
they interact with each other. And then if I want another one, I can go get it. It's like, that's lower risk. It's not a big deal. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably already have a brush, at least one.
Yeah.
So I'll see.
We're going to have a guest in the future. Her name's Julie Fox, and
Mhm.
she went to the art store and just picked off her favorite colors and went home and started painting. And I really love that story. And we're going to have her as a
Yeah.
guest, and she's agreed to be here. And we want to pin her down on that. But by choosing your favorite colors and not worrying about the color wheel,
Hmm.
actually gives
Hmm.
you freedom. And
Yeah.
because you're actually constrained in that choice and not trying to make other colors. And like if you need green and you haven't chosen it, you just go back and buy another green if you really need to, or you
Right.
could, if you didn't happen to have the ones you need to mix it, because mixing is only one part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Experimentation and
Hmm.
taking risks and making lots actually is going to teach you more about loving it as a medium in the long run, I think. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think for so many people, like I'm thinking about if I did this with photography, I'm just using it as a time to explore my other ways to be creative. But if you were
Hmm.
doing photography, there's so many things that you could do, or if you're a musician, really so many things that you could do. Like all of us have like infinite ways that, we can explore these things however we want to, which is so, so amazing. Okay, Takeyce.
Hmm.
I asked you ahead of time, but you said you didn't know. And I want to know, do you really like, what are you going to do for February? And like, do you want to share like maybe a little thought that you have, even if you haven't totally decided?
So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out. I do know though that what has worked in the past is working small. Generally, because I am a landscape painter, it's either some like around now in January, I'll start going through my reference photos and kind of picking ones that really speak to me and putting them in a folder for Creative February, the next Creative February. But there are times when I'm maybe driving home from dropping off one of my kids to one of their events and see something that strikes me that day, and then whatever I had planned goes out the window, and I have to do this other thing. So the only real plan that I have at this moment is just to work small. I do believe that I will be working with gouache because I've been having so much fun working with that medium. Last Creative February, I tried to experiment with gouache and pastels. And I, through habit, because gouache was new to me, I ended up putting a lot more pastels on top of the gouache. So I really couldn't call them mixed media because all the gouache was completely covered that I put underneath. So I think this year maybe I'll I'll try to just stick to just gouache and maybe so 90% gouache, 10% pastels. Maybe that's what we'll try.
I wonder if it's because the pastels just felt a little safer.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's exactly what happened.
We all do
Because
this, don't we?
we do. We fall back into
oh,
our safety.
why
Yes.
are pastels safe for you? Tell us. I
Um,
don't know. I don't
yeah,
know
well,
that
I
story.
think, I've been working with pastels for about 20 years. so,
So that's your medium, isn't it?
so
In one sense.
yeah, pastel. And I mean, I've been working with oils as well for about the same duration or maybe even longer. But pastels have such an incredible immediacy that sometimes I don't have to think about, mixing colors. I can just kind of like grab a couple of sticks, and then I have the value or the color or the tone that I want. Whereas with oils, there's more thinking on, okay, so I need, to get this shade of blue, I need to mix these things, or and then there's the cleanup with oils that you don't really have with pastels. So I think that's why pastels are like my comfort zone. So, so yeah, so maybe this year I'll try to just kind of push out of that a bit, and up the gouache ratio.
Maybe this next creative February is like creative move past your fears. February.
Yeah.
Because that's what it will be for me.
Yeah.
Maybe one year you can take the risk and go to watercolors.
Yeah. Oh my God. Maybe I should, because the last time I tried watercolor, like to do an actual painting, not just experimenting with it, it was not pretty. It was not pretty, and I just had I learned to paint with oils. So, the mindset with oil and then watercolor, it's like opposite. You work with oils, I typically work from dark to light, and with watercolors it's light to dark. And for some reason that just wasn't, it kind of broke my brain when I tried it, and I wasn't pleased with the results. But most definitely that maybe one year that should be a goal of mine to just tackle that.
Maybe one year for Creative February, I'll try film photography. Oh, you know what'd be fun?
Oh.
Do you know what'd be fun? Like a pinhole camera. Because I went in September and joined my friend Eric in Zion National Park, and he has a pinhole camera, and you should see him work. It's super interesting. And it's because pinhole really is like all right, Len, it's all about experimenting, because you can't see really what you're photographing when you put it up there. So anyway, I have all these things I want to try, including cyanotypes. That would be so fun.
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
Make a list, Bree.
I know. I need a list.
Yeah.
I need a list.
I've got a few students at the moment, and they're mixing photography and jelly printing, gold leaf, and cyanotypes all together, and mixing things around and making a mixed media artworks. And it's actually incredibly exciting to watch and be a part of. Their process, goes on for a very long period of time. But there's so much experimentation in that, and there's so much joy in not knowing what the result's going to be, which is part of the joy I think you're identifying there with pinhole as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a surprise. It's like
Len gets his students to do Creative February all year.
Yeah.
Relentless.
Right. What happens if you do this? Let's try this. How about experimenting this way?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited about this. What else if somebody in our audience was going to do this, what else is there anything else that they might need to know? And what would we want to encourage them to do to participate?
I guess the main thing is, as I mentioned before, the community and the collaborative aspect is important part of the project. So, if you're on social media, if you're on Instagram, if you do share your work, if you could tag it with the Creative February hashtag so that we can see what you're working on, that would be great. And participating, joining in the conversation. It's exciting to see all the different artwork that's being created during that time. So if you see something that moves you or inspires you, let the artist know. And I've seen a couple of times too, where one artist may post something and then it may inspire another artist to kind of do a derivative work from that, which I find very exciting too. It's just like a whole new way of collaborating and living in that community space.
Ooh, that's wonderful. Okay, so hashtag Creative February, and we'll put it in the notes. But also, maybe this is a time where we, right, like you said, the community, so then we're like maybe a little extra active. And I'm not saying that you have to do this, anybody has to do this, but if you want to, and you want to find a lot of inspiration and you want to share anyone who's also participating and using the same hashtag, you want to share what they're doing, that might be really fun to introduce ourselves to each other, because that's how I got introduced to you, and now look at we're having this conversation, which is absolutely so much fun, like so much fun.
What is the hashtag?
Hashtag Creative February.
And Bree will put that in our thing too, so we know.
I got you.
For those of us that can't remember that.
I got you. I do all that stuff. So yes, and for sure.
This year too, towards the end of Creative February this year, I actually created a Creative February Instagram account. So for next year, what I'm going to try to figure out is, I know there's like the repost app, but if you tag your work with the hashtag, I'm going to figure out a way to aggregate it onto that Creative February profile too. So then that'll be another way, an easy way to kind of see what everybody's working on.
Awesome. We can chat about that. I can tell you a couple things that I've experienced with those kind of things. Yeah, for sure. Okay. We'll chat about it. I love social media, for anyone that knows. I love it. We actually did a whole podcast episode about social media, and I profusely said about how much I love social media. So I'll check that episode too. Writing that down.
How exciting.
All right. This has been really, really fun. I am super, I don't know. I always come away with from these conversations. Like I told Len, I was really tired earlier, and now I am like bursting with energy now because I'm really excited about what I'm going to do, but I'm going to put the pin in that because I'm going to wait until February, but I'm going to start dreaming about what I'm going to do. So
I thought you were going to race down to the art shop and start buying your colors.
No, no, Len, you and I, we're working on our workshop. We're putting all of the finishing touches on that stuff. So, which is actually starting at the end of January. So we'll put information.
So exciting, isn't it?
I know. If it's not full, we'll put the information about that in the notes. So people can see that. But yes, that's where a lot of our creativity is going right now, which is so fun because we're going to help other people do it too. That's what we're about, right? Is encouraging everyone to be creative and to expand their creativity just a little bit as they push themselves a little bit. So,
and I love the theme. That's one of the themes that's come up today is this sense of community, and I really think that that's such a strong one for us to hang on to as people, because we are we're built sociologically to live together in communities, and today with this modern technology, we can have this incredible support from each other, even from people that we've never met physically or know, and in the traditional sense, who live within within the house or within a close distance. But we can build these incredibly powerful, beautiful communities with each other, supporting our own creativity, because we need it, don't we? I do. I can't be. I can't be that one hidden away and just making art by myself, because it just doesn't work. I need that connection with others, and that not so much feedback, but a sense of support and also encouragement. And I think that it's a lovely thing that we've really explored in this, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about Creative February, and it's so exciting to hear all about it. And you've got me on I'll be scratching my head and wondering what's going to happen for my creative therapy
Yeah.
February, and it will be creative therapy for me.
Yes.
And
I
watch
was
out
gonna
for my
say.
students; they're going to cop creative February, whether they like it or not.
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe we'll get Len to publish some work in color.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
next year, all my Lens journal, the whole year is going to be my color work coming out in my magazine. So
I'm so excited about that.
Excellent.
you should see the bright purple color of the first one. So
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm excited.
Yeah, but I love that. I love that, Len. I'm sorry, the creative therapy, because it really is, for a lot of us, creativity is therapy, and it is a way for us to, I always say it's akin to meditation, when I'm making art, it's one of the only things that I do that I'm actually only focused on that. And as long as you're in a space where you're allowed to do that, it is like every time. It's like a time. I always think of my studio as like a time machine. You go in for an hour, and 5 hours later, it's amazing. I had a question for both of you, if that's okay.
Yes.
please, we'd love
Yeah.
I'm
to.
excited. I'm excited now. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Well, I'm curious, what inspires you? Like, what gets you excited when you think about your craft and what you do with a creative lens? What inspires you? Who wants to go first? Len? Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Len? Do you want me to go first?
Well, I'm one of my inspirations is making stuff, and I really love making things, and I'm surrounded by prints, bits of paper, drawings, paintings, bits of wood things, all sorts of strange things, clothes. Making is one
True.
of the drivers. Like clothes I've made, and
Yeah.
but
Oh, nice.
even the desk I'm sitting at, I made, or the tablecloth that's on it, or the stand that holds my computer up. All these little
Wow.
things. It's actually doing is incredibly important for me, and then to be able to add an aesthetic to it, and rather than just a beauty in its function. I don't know where I learnt that, but it seems to have been innate, and it's been a long time driver throughout my life. And I actually put down art for nearly 10 years in my life after having been it as a love and going to art school and learning to be an art teacher and all those sort of things, and then pursuing teaching with all my passion. The other thing that drives me in that, and it's taken me my whole life to figure that out, is creativity in itself. That the creative act for me becomes a motivational force, and as you just said, it's therapy, it's meditation, it's a chance to connect with myself. It's also a chance to connect with other people. So that's my quick 5-minute answer.
That was
Quick in 5
great.
minutes.
That's great.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just going to say a little side note. I also love making. That's not necessarily what inspires me. Like if you look at the bookcases behind me, like I made these from scratch. I'm so proud of myself. I made all kinds.
Wow.
I've
That
done a
is
ton of
fantastic.
woodworking. Thank you. I made them to exactly fit these little containers. So anyway, lots of math involved. It kind
Yeah.
of hurt my head.
Yeah.
So, but as soon as there are multiple things, like so many things that inspire me. And so I'm just going to say the first one that comes to mind. And I have a friend and he calls me the texture queen. And so, and so when I think about what inspires me, like if I'm behind, like with my camera and I find something that actually makes me feel inspired, it's usually something that has some really interesting texture. And I love that. I love finding that in nature and photographing that, whether it's like veins on on a leaf, or the other day I was out by my creek and there were all like, it was super misty. And you know, when it's super misty and it's very still and the water just
Yeah.
collects along these little plants like diamonds, or just rock textures, or, textures in dunes as the wind has blown them. Anyway, I can just name all kinds of textures, and you can even hear it in my voice. Like, I love them.
Yeah.
I almost always stop. Maybe I have published, a bunch of them, but I have my Lightroom catalog is like filled with textures that's maybe no one will ever see, because I just love photographing them. They're so fun, and I feel so inspired by them because nature is incredible and does incredible things. So that is also my 5-minute answer.
Oh,
Great.
that's amazing.
Great. Yeah, thanks
It's
for
quite
sharing.
ironic, Brie,
Yeah.
that we have a creative affair and we haven't met and we can't touch each other. But it's interesting because we both share that love, and I try to create artworks that I want to touch, and I want to do that visually. And I only just noticed, like, it's only a recent thing that I actually noticed that touch is really important in my work, and I want to be able to reach into them, and that sense of feeling is communicated through this sense of wanting to touch things. I think that's amazing. Oh, that's quite an insight there, Brie. I'm really
there you go.
I'm loving that one.
So fun. I feel like we could talk about, I feel like with you, Takeyce, we could just chat about all the things that we've ever talked about on our podcast before for like hours on end. It would be so fun.
So should we turn her question around and ask Takeyce what
inspires you, Takeyce?
Inspires you?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I think being alive and being present in this moment in time, being able to experience the landscape, the light in the landscape, that is what's most inspiring to me. The fact that I'm able to, spend time. I have time, because it hasn't always been that way, where I've had time to focus inward on myself. And the way I do that, I tend to go outdoors. And that is a part of the draw for me with the landscape, is that when I'm in the landscape, it is meditative. It's so calming and peaceful, and being able to capture that, whether it's, right now in my career, the skill or the level of experimentation and trial and error and all of that I've done, to where I'm at the point now where time between my aha paintings, I call them, is, a little bit less and less each time. That for me is inspiring, and being able to share that connection that I feel with nature, and being in the outdoors, and the restorative effects it has on me, being able to share that through my art. That's what inspires me to keep trying and keep going out there and capturing that essence to share with others.
Isn't it so beautiful that each of us have such a different answer to that same question? And I think,
well, that's my answer too. I want to change mine now.
And it also changes on which day you ask us as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
like some days it's about connection with
true.
people, and other days it's connection with nature, or for me, connection with trees or wilderness. Yeah, it's such a complex thing, and I love thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful question.
I think at the core of that, it's being alive in this moment to be able to take in these things, whether it's the textures or the tactile aspect for you, Len, of being able to like create things. At the core of it is just that we're here and we're here now. And, I know as a creative, and I'm sure you can relate, we all have this innate urge to do things, to make things. So that I always, when I think about that, it makes me just so happy to be able to do it.
Mm. I really believe that a creative life is a blessing, isn't it? It's
Yes.
such a gift, and we're so lucky to be alive, and we're actually incredibly privileged to have time to be able to even to make art
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
to be able to do that, and it's magic. It's absolute magic for us as humans, and the gifts that it gives ourselves, let alone other people, is incredibly special. And yes, you're right. It's a gift to be alive. It's a gift to be creative and alive.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's what Creative February, if we were to wrap it all up, that's what it's about, is making time for these moments where you are alive and in the moment with your creativity. And I do think that's such a really, really beautiful thing that you have started, Takeyce. This is all because you started this because you needed it. And I just love that so much. So
thank you.
And we invite everyone, all our listeners, to join us all in Creative February. What a magical time. And there's plenty of time left yet for planning and getting organized and doing some research, and go to the website, have a look at it, and get some inspiration and some motivation.
Absolutely. All right.
Great.
I think it's time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here with us, Takeyce. We'll put all of your contact information in, and everyone stay tuned for all of the amazing inspiration that we're going to all get from Creative February.
Awesome. Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us in a wonderful conversation. And I think we've actually only just started our conversation. I really want to talk to you more about learning and about creativity. So maybe another time we can actually go down some other rabbit holes and talk about those.
Sure. I'm gonna plug in my laptop because I think it's gonna not cooperate.
She's gonna die as we're ending.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, everyone. Well, Takeyce, any last words before we end?
Yes. Thank you both so much, Len and Bree, for having me. This has been such a wonderful conversation. It's great to get to know each of you a little bit more and to learn what inspires you. And I'm really honored that you made time for me tonight. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
An absolute pleasure, and it's so lovely to meet you. Till next time, goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for joining us in our creative affair. If you love the passion we bring to this creative content, please support the podcast by sharing with a friend, subscribing, and leaving us a review. To find out more about Bree's work, including her gorgeous photography and mentoring in her Creative Confidence Group Coaching program, please visit her at creativemindscoach.com. If you'd like to learn more about creative photography, you can find me at lenmetcalf.com, where you can find links to my photography school, my videos, and numerous publications. I would so love you to sign up for my newsletter. Well, until next time, we hope you enjoy your creative life. And it's time to say goodbye for now.